You're watching Channel 4 and a semblance of reality. So, you think television never lies?
So if you want the truth, go to God. Go to your guru. Go to yourselves. Because that's the only place you're ever going to find any real truth. But man, you're never going to get any truth from us. We'll tell you anything you want to hear. We lie like hell. We'll tell you that Kojak always gets the killer and that nobody ever gets cancer.
The Film Network argues that for most people there is no reality outside television, and not much reality on it.
We'll tell you any shit you want to hear. We deal in illusions, man. None of it is true. But you people sit there day after day, night after night, all ages, colors, creeds. We're all you know. You're beginning to believe the illusions we're spinning here. You're beginning to think that the tube is reality and that your own lives are unreal. You do whatever the tube tells you. You dress like the tube. You eat like the tube. You raise your children like the tube. You even think like the tube. This is mass madness, you maniacs. In God's name, you people are the real thing. We are the illusion.
American television's proudest boast is that it brings us uncensored pictures of the world. But it cheats on its own promises.
In American television, we have very little overt censorship and very little ideological censorship per se. What we have instead is what we might call censorship by substitution, where TV presents an entire universe, a magical universe in some ways, that refers to everything in the real world, but explains nothing about it. And it suggests that one can dwell in this universe, that one can get pretty much everything from it. And on the other hand, it's extremely limited view of the world. And the way in which it censors is quite subtle, because instead of representing the world, it simulates the world, presenting its own version of reality in exchange for yours or other people's.
In a country as vast and culturally diverse as ours, there is much to be marveled at, surprised by, and discovered.
American Chronicles is provocative, fascinating, astonishing. Most of all, American Chronicles is real. And nothing is more fantastic than real life.
What we see on television is a mixture of the real America, usually derived from the television writer and producer's idea of America. Most of the people in this business, including myself, actually do come from a real place in America, so we have memories of what those places were like. But after years and years of working in the business, and the kind of incestuousness and the suffocating closeness of this world, you do lose touch with what the real America is. So what they will go for is a texture, sort of fake it.
This show will introduce to television a revolutionary form of storytelling by combining factual footage with scripted drama.
DEA is not a documentary. It's not the drug bust of the week. It's about people. DEA is powerful, intense, dramatic television that's going to hit you right between the eyes.
It's as real as dramatic television can get.
Maybe, like most Americans, you don't really watch television, you absorb television. It's like another dimension, it's a miasma. I don't think you could ever explain American life without considering television. It's the other dimension. It's a fictive world of the American consciousness. It's so much a part of the culture that everyone participates in it, no matter how much they say they might curl up with a good book in the evening.
Feels much better.
Does it? Does it really?
Where there are
Outrageous comment.
American television isn't a version of American reality, but it's a version of America's values, including the complexity and contradiction of those values. It's about basically three values. First is the value of profusion. It's the dream. It's the gold at the end of the rainbow. It's the infinity of America, the sense of possibility. Secondly, it's about the ambition that takes people, that draws them interminably toward that ever-receding rainbow, that sense of having arrived, which is always impossible. And television, like much of the rest of American popular culture, is about the endless search, the endless treadmill, the endless yearning to go onward, to find what lies on the other side of the street, what lies on the other side of the lawn. Because America disappoints most people, it needs to record the third value, which is solace, which is a sense that even in everyday life, you, little man, and you, little woman, have the possibility of compensation for that which is denied you in real life. So American television also offers a dream of making do, a dream of becoming accustomed to that little which you have in order to be reassured that you, after all, are an American and you're entitled to membership in the common cornucopia.
American television has always claimed to be fulfilling the ideals of American democracy, celebrating the normal, the ordinary, the average, the American. What most Americans want from television is simply to be entertained by television's versions of what they are.
When television people say they're just trying to entertain or they're in the entertainment business, I don't think they have any idea what they're saying. All they're really saying is, this isn't art, or this isn't something I'm serious about, and you shouldn't take it serious either, or this isn't something we really believe in. It's almost entirely a negative term. It means what television isn't, okay? And it's just another sort of designation, another way of escaping responsibility for what people in the television industry do.
And we wheel them in and it makes it look
The three networks have created one nation under television.
actually have to go outside.
The conducted tour of NBC's television studios in Los Angeles demonstrates to its audience that all television's power and technology is there to mirror them, to celebrate their way of life.
Place them right on their shoulders and off they go. Okay? So now that we have all of our lights and our cameras, who can tell me what we need now? We need action, you betcha. Okay. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is what we call a cut. I'm just cutting from one camera to the next. If only 5 or 6 people show up to the Tonight Show, we'll just cut back and forth and it makes them seem like there's a whole studio full, okay? Now, the second thing we can do is what we call a wipe. We can give you that head or body. You can go shopping without ever leaving the comfort of your own home. Look right there. Oh, lovely shoulder pads, sir, yeah. Love that fabric on you, okay? The more affiliate stations we have, okay, the more people that our programming is going to get out to, so the higher our ratings are going to be, and the more money we can get for commercial time. That's how every single network operates, is by their commercials, okay? To give you an example as to how important commercial time is, a top-rated program, let's say like Cheers, okay? Right now, a 30-second commercial spot on that television program probably would cost you about $300,000, okay? Now, when you times that by how many commercials you see during the day, we're talking millions of dollars of advertising time.
By the time television developed, the model was in place. The stations would be owned privately, would be owned for profit, in effect, technically licensed, but in fact owned for profit. And the business of television would be business, to paraphrase what President Coolidge said. Interestingly, there was actually a debate in the American Senate in 1934 when the law was being passed, and there was a bill to propose that 1/4 of all the radio frequencies be set aside as non-commercial. And it actually got, I think, 24 votes and failed. And that was the last time that such a debate took place in America. So it's an advertising medium.
But the advertisers really have no investment in the programs that they sponsor. They don't really care what the program says. What they care about is whether it gains a big enough number.
When you really want to treat yourself, yes. Nothing makes you feel as good as gold.
The viewers can sense this bad faith coming to them out of the screen, and they also feel very little investment in the programs that they're watching. Increasingly younger viewers, for example, don't watch programs. They just continually shift one from the other because they're all equally uncompelling. And so there's this total atmosphere of cynicism, low investment, meaninglessness, pervading the entire television phenomenon.
The pictures of reality offered on screen reflect the new forms of censorship created by American television.
There's nothing but censorship on American television. American television is a system of censorship at every level. It's not all censorship from above. In fact, most of it isn't. It doesn't have to be. There's a system of self-censorship. People don't get to become regulars here unless they submit to the rules.
These rules appear to constantly change, but all programs have to obey certain commandments created by the advertisers.
Advertisers want two things. They want the right kind of demographics, that is, the right audience. And so they want shows that appeal to that audience, which means younger viewers, people with disposable income, people with a certain economic and education levels and so forth. Secondly, they want the right environment for their products. What they mean by an environment is a friendly atmosphere where the images of the products either fit in well or don't clash too much with the message of the program. In fact, this is one good way to tell a good program from a bad. If when you leave the program for the advertisement, it seems to be strange to now be talking about toilet tissue, then that's probably a good program. When it seems seamless and the transition to the ads is almost unnoticeable, that's, from my point of view, a bad program.
Everybody loves a little squeeze.
Okay, here we go again, another new season, and there are a lot of new shows this year, so let's try and get through this as quickly as we possibly can.
At the Saatchi & Saatchi advertising agency in New York, executives try to predict audience ratings that programs will get in the new season. Advertisers claim the only censorship here is the censorship of numbers. A program with high ratings will get their support, whatever its content.
Major Dad, well, 20. Let's not be too optimistic.
And just to support that, I think that Major Dad's a better show than Teddy Z was last year.
Oh, definitely.
And Teddy Z, I think, was
It was
around.
my favorite show.
I would definitely watch it.
I think this is going to be a tough one. What is going to happen when Bill Cosby meets Bart Simpson?
Dad, I need help. Please.
Oh, come on, Bart. We don't want your mother to see you crying.
Oh, man.
Here, let me help you dry those tears. So what's the problem, son?
I had a run-in with a bully.
Well, Bart, I hope you're going straight to the principal about this.
What? And violate the code of the schoolyard? I'd rather Bart die.
What on earth are you talking about, Homer?
The code of the schoolyard, Marge. The rules that teach a boy to be a man. Let's see. Don't tattle. Always make fun of those different from you. Never say anything unless you're sure everyone feels exactly the same way you do.
Mm-hmm. So what do we think for Simpson's opposite Cosby? What kind of share? I think
we'll go down, at least initially. 17.
They're young, they're sexy, they're single, they're babes.
Come on, they're fat.
This is the story of Charlene, Darlene, and Marlene. Three sisters who just happen to be, well, big.
Oh, this swimsuit makes me look like such a cow. I've had burgers that weighed more than her.
So what do you think? The show has a terrific lead-in from The Simpsons, but a lot of people are concerned that it's going to offend some women. People are concerned that it's going to have one joke. What kind of number do we want to give it?
15.
15? 15, okay.
Peekaboo.
Get up, lug nuts. Take it like a man.
When we start seeing trends emerging, for example, questionable language, which we're seeing a lot more of this year, we would then obviously go to a network and say, we think you're going to have a problem. We think we're going to have a problem with our clients. We don't think this is an appropriate vehicle for our clients' advertising. And because we do represent a considerable amount of money, the networks will listen to us. But it's generally acknowledged that the decision-making takes place at their end, not at our end.
Hey, Mark, come here a minute, come here.
The most enduring censorship the networks practice is to exclude what doesn't sell. In the 50s, utopian pictures of America sold best.
Already had a team. Was that right, Mom?
I'm so proud of you.
Well, I figured if we're going to be the happiest family in the world, we ought to be on the same team.
Yeah. Now go on, get back in there. All right, fellas, play ball. Let's go.
Mrs. Seaton. Oh, Mrs. Seaton.
Oh, yes, Mr. Tyler, hi.
Hi. There's a meeting of the coaches Wednesday night.
Fine, I'll be there.
Let's have dinner first.
Yes, Mr. Tyler, I'd love to.
See ya.
Bye. Baseball fun.
I want both of you to take the place in the studios. Don't forget to put on your earphones, and the very best of luck to the both of you.
Thank you.
In the beginning of American television, you had a kind of utopian portrayal of the world associated with TV. For example, the TV game show was a sort of spectacular set in which magical, fantastic things happened to people. And in the beginning, you had ordinary people leaving their world, the world of the audience, coming into this magic world of TV.
Q. You're right for 21 points.
And having interesting things happen to them on the game shows.
You will now have a grand total of $69,500. Congratulations again. Simple, indeed it was. Matter of fact, right now, Herb, you're one of the top money winners ever to appear on television, and we'll get back to you in just a moment. I'm sorry you couldn't win two. Miss Strong, you have 7 points. Ordinarily, we'd give you $10 a point, but we never let you go below 100. You get $100 from Geritol. A check will be waiting, and to make sure that you never suffer from tired blood, our sponsor wants you to have our product Geritol, which we're sure will come in very, very handy for you. Thank you very much for playing 21.
And television is the only medium in which you can demonstrate a product like an automobile. Right in the home, where the buying impulse is born.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful Texas.
It wasn't long before politicians were driving right into American homes to sell themselves. In one of the first political commercials, television's tendency to celebrate the ordinary Joe, to put emotions and personality way above ideas, is already being fully exploited by the politicians.
Still in beautiful Texas, the most beautiful state that we know.
Thank you, boys. Thank you very much. And how do you do, ladies and gentlemen? And hello there, boys and girls. This is your former governor and your next governor, W. Leo Daniels speaking, and it's certainly a great pleasure to be on television here in Texas.
Eisenhower answers America.
You know what things cost today. High prices are just driving me crazy.
Yes, my Mamie gets after me about the high cost of living. It's another reason why I say it's time for a change. Time to get back to an honest dollar and an honest dollar's worth.
A paid film.
By 1968, Richard Nixon knew enough about television to make television's images and techniques part of his political message and personality.
It is time for an honest look at the problem of order in the United States. Dissent is a necessary ingredient of change. But in a system of government that provides for peaceful change, there is no cause that justifies resort to violence. let us recognize that the first civil right of every American is to be free from domestic violence. So I pledge to you, we shall have order in the United States.
When we think of the media in this country, the problem is that they have a sense of self-righteousness, a double standard on issue after issue after issue. They can find everything wrong with somebody else, but they will not look inside and ever admit that they could be wrong themselves. And
Nixon created the ultimate television commercial at his birthplace library in California. Here, his political life on American network television has been re-edited to tell his version of the truth.
they're reporting, which is their job to do.
And visitors can use a computer to question Nixon, preserved for eternity on TV, about any aspect of his personality and politics.
Senator Richard Nixon.
Nixon is a fascinating man to discuss in relation to television because he was really present at key moments in the unfolding relationship between television and politics. The first was, of course, the Checkers speech, where he demonstrated that you could use television to communicate directly to the audience, and if you were willing to debase yourself enough, which he was, create a quite powerful emotional reaction among viewers, which, of course, Nixon succeeded in doing at some cost to his self-respect, but with a great boost to his political career.
My fellow Americans, I come before you tonight as a candidate for the vice presidency, and as a man whose honesty and integrity has been questioned. Now, the usual political thing...
When Nixon was accused of having illegal campaign funds, he sold himself to the American people and saved himself.
I should say this, that Pat doesn't have a mink coat, but she does have a respectable Republican cloth coat. And I always tell her that she'd look good in anything.
Secondly, Nixon was involved in that moment of discovery in politics, in the debate with Kennedy, when it became common wisdom that the president or candidate's body was a major problem and had to be controlled very carefully by expert technicians. Kennedy was in control of his body, therefore he would make a good president. Nixon was out of control of his body, specifically of his beard and his weight, therefore he would make a bad president. Right? Now, this is kind of a ludicrous idea, but it became common wisdom and an operating assumption in American politics.
In the fall of 1960, Vice President Richard Nixon and Senator John F. Kennedy squared off in a series of 4 debates, the first televised debates in the history of American politics. The myth of the 1960 debates is that Kennedy beat Nixon and won the election as a result. It is true that Senator Kennedy looked better in the first debate. Vice President Nixon was underweight and tired because of a recent illness, and it showed. He declined to wear television makeup and perspired noticeably under the studio lighting. But it is not clear that Kennedy did better. After the first debate, most television viewers felt Kennedy had won. But one prominent Democratic editor observed that a group of people listening to the debate on radio felt that Nixon had the better of it. What Nixon, and indeed the political world, learned from that first debate was that, especially on television, style was more important than substance.
And finally, in the Watergate era, we see how television actually can benefit a political system, a democratic system in particular, when it gets out of the way and simply sets up the cameras in front of some other institution, in this case Congress, which is conducting an inquiry. The Watergate hearings did have a tremendous effect on public opinion in America, but it's precisely because television was doing nothing except letting the cameras roll that it was able to play this very vital part in the political process. So it's the strength of other institutions that allows television to play important political functions. And it's the weakness of television's own agenda that makes it dangerous.
On May 22nd, I stated in very specific terms, and I state again to every one of you listening tonight, these facts. I had no prior knowledge of the Watergate break-in. I neither took part in nor knew about any of the subsequent cover-up activities. I neither authorized nor encouraged subordinates to engage in illegal or improper campaign tactics. That was, and that is, the simple truth. The media were often quite critical of you and your presidency. Why was the media so tough on you?
I would say that as far as the media is concerned, I probably don't handle myself in the way they like. That they like fashion, and I'm not a fashion person. They like the trendy people. I'm not a trendy person. They like froth. I'm more one who believes in substance.
Even with a scholarship, you were on a tight budget at Duke Law School. Is it true that you ate only Milky Ways for breakfast?
For 3 years, this will find it hard to believe, I had a Milky Way for breakfast, period.
Sludge oozed Homo sapien.
Bart.
Notice the large stomach.
Bart.
Notice the extremely small cranium.
Bart.
Uh-oh. Roll it, dude!
American television production moved to Los Angeles in the late 1950s. It went to a city whose cinema industry was already selling a version of reality to America and the world. Network television merged with Los Angeles and held out a very American promise, not of a radiant future, but of a radiant present where everything is possible for everyone.
Los Angeles is the epitome of the American dream. It was always sold as the dream, even before it was the dream. It's a completely made-up place, which is ideal for a location for a place to make up a fictional world. It's an engineered reality. It's a peculiar mixture of what people will buy and what they won't buy. I mean, really, we're selling a product, essentially.
The Walsh family just moved from the Midwest to the richest city in America.
Everyone here looks like they just stepped out of a music video. I don't even have the right hair. Socially, it's really intense. You make one false move and you're history.
Fox Television claims this series shows an uncensored version of American reality. Fox believes that in the 1990s, it's realism, not fantasy, that sells.
This school is based after a real school here in LA, and it's true that a lot of kids try to get to this school by lying about where they live. And they have detectives who come, and they're kicked out of the school if they're found out.
Brandon, this isn't a game to me. I am not rich like you. If anybody finds out where I live, they will kick me out of West Beverly High so fast my head will spin.
Well, how come you go there if you live here?
Because it's the best school in the city, that's why. Why should I be deprived of a good education just because I am geographically undesirable?
Well, you're right.
Mixing reality and fantasy isn't easy when the setting is a school for kids of the richest parents in Los Angeles, many of whom work in television.
Cute hat. I was in a hat mood.
Let us see your hair, silly.
Sorry. It's very, very realistic, especially compared to other TV shows that are on, because our characters are not perfect. I want to shoplift, and I get arrested for shoplifting. I mean, we're really dealing with real issues.
I think that we're dealing with some very strong issues, some very real things.
Jason loses his virginity on this show, which is, I think, it's going to be a great show. I mean, we're dealing with substance abuse. We're dealing with a lot of different things. Hopefully, we'll get into even more controversial issues. We're saying, look, we're a brave, new, young show who's ready to go ahead and tackle these controversial issues that other shows aren't willing to tackle.
Now the kids have inherited a wealth of problems.
Parents in Beverly Hills let their kids go where they want and do what they want. They're treated like adults. Except they're not.
And so have their parents.
When's your curfew? Excuse me?
LA, having been built as a splicing of styles, would produce a kind of culture which is nothing but endless reruns, endless versions of itself. There's nothing here. All that television is, as in LA, is the redistribution of its own moves. It's the recombination of its own devices. Its history is only itself. It doesn't touch the ground. It is simply an endless recycling of what it has already done, a kind of tedious rehearsal of its own promises.
Gotta go, guys. Let's roll it.
Here we go, and...
Television promises to explore any subject, but only a tiny minority get to carry out this promise, and they all come from Los Angeles.
Brenda, we've been looking all over you. Cute hat. I was in a hat. Let us see your hair, silly.
The people who produce television are literally at any given moment no more than 200 people. they live in a very closed world. They go to the same places for vacations. They send their kids to the same schools. They live in the same neighborhoods. They talk the same talk. They eat at the same restaurants. They have the same culture in common, this culture of culturelessness. And endlessly they are flattering each other that they have arrived, that they are the triumphs, they are the representatives of the dream. And so they are endlessly marketing versions of themselves and their triumphs, which other people who are, of course, not vastly successful can identify with. It's a tremendously interesting trick, and the way they do it is by constantly reminding themselves or flattering themselves that they are little people. They're just like us. They're just the ones who got lucky.
I think the show's appealing because it deals with the issues of growing up and feelings that all people can relate to.
I don't know if there are actually taboo subjects, since the pressure of turning out 36 episodes of a show or 26 episodes of a show, and over a number of years, hopefully, 115 episodes of a show, you're always looking for some sort of a premise, some kind of an issue, and if it's something that can be somewhat provocative, you'll try it, because it'll increase your audience share for the evening. It's the treatment of the subject that's really the taboo. You must have some kind of a resolution that's going to be happy for everybody in the room. Life is essentially, it's the way all the stories are structured, that all frustrations, which we all live with, are eventually overcome by people of goodwill.
Okay, come on. Are we supposed to be a family? We're not acting too much like a family.
And I swear, because we look so much like family.
Ron, talk to her, will you?
There are plenty of Americans who never would have talked to a black person, but they let Bill Cosby proverbially into their living rooms, and that actually moves the center of gravity of America toward this idealized version of America in which we're all folks, we're all just the same.
So I say, Holmes, let's go. So we mix it, right? Wham, bam. Man walks home on his job, and I walk home on his 5. Can you dig that?
Very nice. What the hell did he just say?
I don't think that Fox is trying to preach to the audience. I think that what we are trying to do is be different, and also to appeal to this, 18 to 49 demographic, teens and kids. And the fact that some of these programs have an opportunity to make some statements as well, I think is icing on the cake for us.
Oh, man. I'm here to see Grandpa.
Half the people here are named Grandpa.
Well, Grandpa Simpson, then.
Second floor, third dank room on the left.
Thanks, lady.
The Simpsons and some other Fox shows, including Married with Children and Living Color, have opened up television to different kinds of attitudes, different kinds of emotions. And that is a result of competition. In this case, competition works the way its promoters say that it should work. Now the question is whether that will change television, that is the attitudes among producers about how to program shows. And that I doubt very much. That is, I doubt that Fox will continue to hand over shows to interesting, creative people who have different ideas about what television is about, because the impulse to control from the center what happens on the air is very, very strong.
Dear advertisers, I am disgusted with the way old people are depicted on television. We are not all vibrant, fun-loving sex maniacs. Many of us are bitter, resentful individuals who remember the good old days when entertainment was bland and inoffensive.
Well, emotions are the obsession of network executives and development executives like myself, trying to locate the emotion. The most constant, persistent question that is asked about any script or any actor or any show is, how is the audience going to feel about this? How are they going to feel about her? Are they going to like her?
All right, so in a few minutes, we're going to meet the cast of the Nell Carter pilot. I hope you're excited, are you?
The stereotyping and normalizing of every emotion and personality is one of television's new forms of censorship.
since the beginning of film itself, the visual medium has always been extremely powerful in communicating an emotion. Someone once described half-hour comedy as the emotional news. People define their emotions by television, define their relationships by using the characters in half-hour comedies as metaphors.
It felt real to us. It felt like a real family, a mother, a father, kids who really were relating like a real family, not like cartoon characters, but real people, and that's what audiences seem to respond to over the longest term.
Very quiet, no walking around, hold everything.
The reality of shows about American blacks is that their genuine liberal political message has to be filtered through the notion of celebrity, through famous black personalities already part of the American dream.
Yes, Chris. We will, bye, Chris.
Look here. I found a scenic route to the hotel.
Honey, your last scenic route drove us right into a swamp. Now, why don't we take the interstate, baby? It was built for people like you.
Oh, the interstate is so unromantic. 17 years, we haven't had a vacation alone. I want to see romantic country roads, covered bridges, farms with rolling hills where cheerful white people do all the work.
In the sitcoms, you have a different kind of one-dimensionality, where everyone is equally likely to be debased by others, to become the butt of jokes, the target of a ridiculing humor. But in the end, they all love each other. And that's sort of the plot of every sitcom. Everybody's material for jokes, but everybody also loves each other.
What is it? What's wrong?
You were doing it!
We were now.
We were trying.
Now!
Lorraine, honey, tell us what you want before your father is forced to cut out your tongue.
I need your opinion. Do you think I would look better with really large breasts?
You stay here, honey. I'll get the knife.
Mom, don't come in here. They were doing it.
We were not.
It's okay. I know all about sex from biology. Did you know that some species kill their partners after mating?
And others eat their young.
Man, what's with the volume?
They were doing it.
My man.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me just say something very seriously just for a second. I don't think I've ever been this proud of an audience before. I am so proud. Like in my heart.
But millions of Americans have been deserting network television. In the 1980s, cable and access TV came to America. Access TV was television not made by the elite few in Los Angeles, but by anyone with a message or a vision. Instead of the network's attempt to create a unified and homogeneous culture, Access TV appears to offer a multicultural alternative where blacks, Jews, Hispanics, gays can celebrate on air their differences.
Public Access is a channel that's made available to members of the community. They can come into our studio and they can put on any kind of show that they want without censorship. It doesn't have to have be something that has broad appeal. It can be something that's directed at a very small group of people. For example, we have a show called AIDS Vision that discusses the problems with people suffering from AIDS. There are other more frivolous shows, like we have someone that does political commentary while he ties up balloon animals, and another show that tries to unlock the mysteries of the universe, like what happens to that lost sock in the dryer.
The issue with public access is access to what? Access to airtime is not enough. What you really want in public access is access to producers' positions, to positions of power in the network structures, access to decision-making within the agencies that really power the mass media. Access to airtime is increasingly easy to give because there's just an abundance of airtime with new technologies. And so I think if we had a more serious definition of access, then there would be some meat in access television.
Good evening. I'm Dan Hackle. Welcome to JTN News.
Israel is beginning distribution of gas masks.
JTN News is a quality news show that focuses on issues and stories of interest to the Jewish community. And what we really are is just like CBS and NBC, except we look at things in depth and from a unique perspective, a perspective that our particular audience is interested in.
From JTN's Gail Becker on the...
Access has often meant that only groups who already have access to money and power are making effective use of the new television. And they are only interested in offering their own view of the world.
Well, Dan, while champagne corks were popping in Germany on October 3rd, here the reaction was obviously a little more low-key and perhaps a little more mixed.
Memories of World War II seem to overshadow modern Germany for many of the older Jewish population, especially survivors of the Nazi Holocaust.
I don't like it. Why? Because they're going to be too powerful again like they did the last time.
Back on network television, truthfulness is being abandoned in favor of sensationalist versions of reality.
Ku Klux Klan, now wearing the robes of respectability, candidate for the U.S. Senate, often called a fanatic, but soon he could be sitting on Capitol Hill. 2 men, 2 countries, 1 vision, a current affairs special report inside the Fourth Reich.
In the 1970s and 80s, the news people had to start worrying much more about the ratings. It was an enormously competitive business. A lot of money was at stake. The networks were not making money in the way they were before. They couldn't afford to have a part of the schedule that was simply left to the journalists to report the news in a serious way. And so the journalists felt pressure to make the news entertaining, right, to keep the audience interested in every story all of the time.
A September night outside the Lucas support meeting. An eyewitness described this scene to police.
The tabloid shows mix news and entertainment in a way that's very new. It used to be that television journalists borrowed from the forms of entertainment television, but they remained basically journalists. They identified much more with their colleagues at the New York Times or the Washington Post than they did with the people in Burbank or Hollywood who make entertainment television. And they, as professional journalists, they had a certain ethics that they were expected to adhere to. They bended them a little bit for entertainment purposes, but they did basically adhere to them. The tabloid shows are essentially commercial entertainment shows that borrow the forms and the authority of news.
They lived in fear of a masked killer in the streets.
And the people who produce them aren't journalists, don't have the same commitment to the journalistic profession, and they don't hold to those ethics. They don't worry about the truth of the stories, particularly if they're sensational stories, they go with them. They don't worry about balance. They don't worry about perspective.
Diane's purse, leaving her dying with a bullet through the heart. A block away was a garbage can in the darkness. The shooter removed the combat fatigues. Police say the killer was no man. It was Jennifer.
Well, here now are some news lights. Same length as regular news, but only a third of the meaningful content.
I think that Americans have a very contradictory consciousness about television. They know that it's artificial, and if you ask them, can you trust television, for example, they'll often say, no, it's distorted. But at the same time, television is the main point of access that they have with reality. They do rely on it, and I think that in the end, they do believe it. Above all, they believe what they see on television.
Tonight, the television event of the decade. Enter a world where robots rule, cats compute, and elephants create. You'll meet a man possessed by 1,000 turtles.
You want to try it?
In the 1990s, network television offers the ultimate version of access TV, so-called reality programs, filled only by real Americans, their troubles and pleasures, their lives, even their pets. Here it's claimed there's no one to manipulate the people, there are no writers, no one to distort reality. It's the brave new world of good feelings.
The other one's up there.
They're off.
Apples.
Well, if you guys don't mind, I'm just going to have a seat here while this race is in progress.
Apples.
It's going to be impossible. It's just going to take too long. I think that's great. Why don't we do that? Let's do that.
But I don't know, is it, you know.
Reality programming has always existed in American television. Whether it was game shows or programs like This Is Your Life, which brought people back together. It's always been around. But it's become very fashionable of late because the bottom line is you can make more money or the same amount of money by spending less.
She wants to be clean. Oh. What is this? Oh, this is the ribbon. She produced the
Magic dog and
oh. The
wow.
camera over there. Take you back.
Reality programming is using stuff that happens in the real world as the content of your program. And there really are three reasons for it. One is that it eliminates the need for writers and all the problems that writers create. You know, writers are difficult people. Sometimes they want to express themselves. This is, you know, not acceptable. So you rely on what happens already in the world. You can eliminate the writer. Secondly, it's a ready-made source of material, images, scenes, conflicts, drama, and it cuts way down on production costs. And third, it addresses this problem of the artificialness, the overproducedness, the manufacturedness of television, and offers a different kind of image for an audience that is weary of imageries, the image of the real.
Thank you for being here. Domo arigato. Okay. Now, there are programs out there that are incorporating musical numbers into their shows. It seems to be a trend. We don't know if it works, but we're not taking any chances here on this show. So here we go. Some mood lighting, please. All right, hit it.
Even pets need vocations. We need sports and recreation. We go bowling, we pull wagons, and sometimes we even have to catch a javelin. Just to please you, we've learned computing and perfected gas-free commuting. We'll do most things, the list goes on. But please don't make us have to learn to use the John.
I mean, I think television is a drug. I think television is an addiction. And addictions have their reasons. Addictions have their pleasures. And addictions also have their grueling physical and psychic consequences.
Atta girl. Good girl. Good girl. Nice puppy.
25% off.
No thanks. All right, just sit.
Come on.
Sit. There's a treat for you.
Heel. Great. Good girl, Tony. Good girl. Heel. Heel. Now stop. Stay.
Is American television becoming more idealistic? Nah. I don't. I think American television is searching, always searching for just good, solid entertainment. I think that our primary goal is to entertain people, not to educate or enlighten them. That's the business that we're in.
Good girl. Here's a treat for you. Good girl.
People do like to watch themselves on television, and it gets kind of tiresome and obsessive because there are very few ideas on television. But I'm not sure that Americans are very interested in ideas anymore.
All right, on your mark, get set, go. Go. I'm just gonna hit a little nap over here. Why don't you guys wake me up when this is over?
I think this is there's a kind of smug self-satisfaction in the commercial television sphere, which is ominous because at a certain point it undermines the capacity for criticism. And I don't mean just jokey smirky criticism, which television is very good, thank you, at doing for itself and to itself. But there's an undermining of some sense that finally the human project is about something else, that the shallowness of television tends to drown and dissolve its criticisms. And I think this is really profoundly disturbing.
Well, I'd like to leave you with a final thought. Here at Primetime Pets, we have one goal and one goal only, to set television back 30 years. We're halfway there. Good night, everybody.
The big lie in American television is that we can show you the world. That everything that's worth thinking, that's worth knowing about, that's worth feeling, we can produce a version of on television and offer it to you. In fact, this claim, we bring you the world, is mounted regularly by network news operations and so forth. The notion that everything is televisable, everything is picturable, everything can be presented as an image and therefore is ready for your consumption is, I think, not only a lie, but a deep insult.
Okay, folks, here comes the big finish!
Turn off your television sets. Turn them off now. Turn them off right now. Turn them off and leave them off. Turn them off right in the middle of the sentence I'm speaking to you now. Turn them off